What's going on, fam? This is Raul from QBE and Kennel. Today we're going to be talking about what is the timeline of a female pregnancy, the things that you need to be doing, and most of all, how to tell your bitch is pregnant without even... All right, fam, let's talk about the timeline real quick and the things that we need to be looking for and doing as our bitch progresses in her pregnancy. First things first, when the bitch goes in heat and you actually are able to put either a male to her or do an artificial insemination, know for a fact that you have a 10-day window for that bitch to get pregnant. This leads to a lot of differences in sizes sometimes when the pups are born, because sometimes you'll have the bitch get pregnant on the first day that she's in heat and then turn right back around and get pregnant again on day number 8 of that 10-day window. So you can imagine by the time the pups are born, that puppy that was born a week behind the first pup, he's going to look a lot smaller at the time of birth. A lot of times, some of us refer to that pup as a runt. In reality, you don't know if you have a runt in your hand or not until you let that pup grow. And if you see at the 6 or 8 month mark that pup's growth is still, retarded, that the bone structure isn't there with the rest, with the rest of the litter, then at that point you can make an assumption that it's an actual runt. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, you went ahead and bred the bitch on the first day of the month, whatever month that may be. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and give that 10-day window. So from the 1st to the 10th, if you bred her every other day, you bred her 3 to 4 times, anywhere within that time lapse, 1st through the 10th, she might have gotten pregnant, maybe even more than once. Okay, so we're gonna give it a 2-day window from that. So what I normally do is I count from 1 to 10, I go to the middle point, day 5, and I count 2 weeks from there. So around the 19th, 2 weeks from that 5th day, I'm gonna start checking my dog's poop. We'll start looking at it, looking at the consistency. And when your female is 3 weeks from that middle date that I gave you, the day 5, so on day 26, okay, you should start noticing, if she is pregnant, her poop should start smelling atrociously, okay? And this is because she's carrying, if she is pregnant, she's carrying pups inside, okay? And her metabolism now, it's not just for one dog, she's metabolizing for a dog and a half, a dog and a quarter, a dog and 3/4, depending on the size of the pups or the size of the litter. So therefore, I want you to keep an eye on that. Also on the urine, you're gonna start noticing it being more concentrated. Now, when you have a female that has false pregnancy, she can't poop with that type of smell, both in the urine and in the feces, because she's not carrying, pups inside. Therefore, she's only metabolizing for herself as usual. Whereas the pregnant female is carrying this extra load. This is just our way of figuring out whether a female's pregnant or not. It's not scientific. I don't know if it is that they figured it out and they don't want to tell you. That way you don't spend them, you're able to spend the money on the ultrasound. But either way, we are going to recommend on week 4 to go ahead and take your female in and get an ultrasound done just for confirmation. As for us, if we see a change in smell, consistency, and concentration on both the urine and the feces, we bypass this step. But for all intents and purposes, if you're new at this, go ahead and take your dog in for an ultrasound. And I'm gonna tell you this in addition, ultrasound shouldn't cost you more than about 80 bucks, fam. You got one of these vets or whatever charging you $150, $160 like I've heard, trust me, go ahead and look for somebody else, another vet, get, whatever the case may be. On day 50, okay, what we do is we start ordering something that's called oxytocin. For those of you that don't know, oxytocin is nothing more than a hormone that's gonna make the bitch contract. Also, after she's given birth, it's gonna make her uterus clean itself out completely, and it's gonna make pregnancy go a lot smoother. I normally order it at around day 50 because my bitches have a tendency to give birth on day 59 or day 60. Normally, as per the books, they say that a female could be giving birth anywhere between day 57 to day 63. That has never been the case here. That doesn't mean that, we totally bypass it. We're already on pregnancy watch as soon as we get to day 55. But I normally go ahead and order the oxytocin. That way, if I have too much lapse of time between one pup and the next, I'm able to give the oxytocin to my bitch, and she's able to go into, get contractions and push the puppy out. I normally don't like seeing any more time than about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes between pups. If I start seeing that we're reaching that amount of times and my female's not having any contractions, I automatically give the oxytocin. This is how we do it here. For all intents and purposes, if you've never done this, day 57. Day 57 for us is very, very, very important. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly on 57. It could be 56. But I try to make sure I don't go past 57 because she could be giving birth at any time. What do I mean by all this? On day 57, you must do an x-ray on your dog. Okay, a lot of people think that us breeders, we do x-rays so we could count the pups. That's what we pretty much show you guys on the marketing side. But in reality, what we're really looking at is the birth canal and the size of the cranium on each one of these pups, and make sure that the cranium is smaller than the actual canal. Because if the cranium actually happens to be bigger than the canal, then at that point we know that we got to do a C-section. Do not bypass this step, whether you're new, whether you've been doing this forever. This is really important. You got to make sure that the pups that are coming are going to be able to be born without any type of issues by your female. And if there are any issues, at that point you will know, and you could also be prepared. Fam, I've been telling you all this as far as the timeline is concerned. One thing that's really important is you want to keep your females exercised. I've heard these theories where, you know, you just keep the female cooped up. You don't want to do that, fam. You got to realize that this female, when she goes into labor, you know, labor can last, I've had labor last up to 12 hours, sometimes a little bit more than that. And, you know, you got to make sure that your dog is cardiovascularly sound and has enough, you know, in her to be able to do this. Otherwise, she could go into preeclampsia, which means that the pains, the birthing pains go away, and therefore she doesn't want to push. If that happens, your puppy goes past the 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minute threshold, which I've told you about, and they may just die inside of the canal. In order to prevent this, you got to make sure that you balance your females out. So first and foremost, you got to make sure you get your females at least 2 hours of outside yard time on a daily basis. Let her walk around, let her do whatever. The only thing you want to keep her from doing, listen to me well, the one thing you want to keep her from doing is jumping. Okay, I don't let my females jump to the ramp or down from the ramp whatsoever. You see this right here, this is where they go up and down. Okay, they are not allowed, and whenever I let them out here, I'm here with them. They're not allowed to jump up or jump down this. And trust me, once they get big enough, just a quick little timeout. You see how he's still going? Just still going. This boy's been on there for over an hour and a half. The other thing that I haven't touched on, and we'll continue the timeline here in just a second, but is the feed. Now, a lot of people have different theories as to the feed, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but I will tell you this much. You don't need to overfeed your females, okay? What I normally do is, once I know my female's due to come in heat, I normally change their food about a week to 2 weeks, that I'm guessing, because it's not a perfect science, and I put them on puppy food, okay? I also put them on a multivitamin, okay? And I keep this throughout the pregnancy, okay? Also, what I do is, once they hit the 3-week mark, you're gonna start noticing that your female's gonna be maybe a little bit more hungry. What I normally do is I'll go ahead and bump the food about 20 to 25% of what they normally get, okay, on their normal feed. And then I always put extra feed there, so if they want to wake up in the middle of the night, you got to realize their hormones are going up and down just like a woman's would. I just put extra feed there. I make sure they always have fresh water, and you know, just let them eat freely from that point on. Okay, you're going to start noticing that your females are going to be urinating a lot more frequently, and that their normal feeding behaviors are also going to be changing somewhat. There's going to be some days they're going to walk up to the feed, to the kibble, and smell it and walk away. There's going to be some times you're just going to go there and devour it. That's perfectly fine. You got to keep in mind their hormones are going up and down. What I do when I'm about 4 to 3 weeks out. So basically, once 4 weeks have gone by into the pregnancy, at that point, I start feeding my dogs whatever type of raw protein you want to feed them. For the exception of pork, I stay away from that only because of the probability of parasites at that point. I also usually stay away from beef. My preference is just chicken quarters, I normally start feeding them raw chicken quarters along with their food. I want to make sure that they're getting enough protein and enough of everything that they need for those puppy to be nice and healthy, you know, when they're born. I also keep track of my females' weight. I weigh my females weekly. I try to make sure that they don't gain any more than 3.5 to 4 pounds in a week, okay? I also try to weigh them. Make sure when you weigh them, if you weighed them after they pooped and peed, you weigh them after they poo and pee, okay? Don't go weigh them after they finish eating and the previous week you weighed them after they pooed and peed, because you're gonna notice a large disbalance. But what I have noticed, fam, and I'd love to pass this on to you guys, is even though you want your females to be big, when they're overly big, you may run into complications. So I'm not saying you want a skinny female. All I'm saying is you want a healthy female at a healthy weight. You don't want to just, you know, if you start noticing that she's gaining way too much weight, then you might want to, you know, like I had said earlier, to let her free feed. In that case, then I would start portion feeding, just to make sure she doesn't get too big on me. One thing I'm going to tell you guys is this little tidbit that could save you. It could be the difference of losing a pup or saving a pup. Okay, we're going to talk about rather quickly here is going to be your female's nipples. Usually when they're at around, I don't know, let's say day 45, day 50, you're going to start noticing the mammary glands getting bigger. Okay, do not go there and start touching the nipples. Okay, don't do that, fam. There's a variety of reasons why you don't, and in particularly, you don't want to do it the closer you are to her giving birth. Because what happens is, nature has developed this system that when the puppy starts suckling on the nipple, oxytocin is released, this hormone that I'm telling you about that creates contractions, and the female is able to pass the next pup. Okay, so you don't want to do this before it's time, otherwise you're going to find yourself with some preemie pups. And we all know that, you know, if you've had pups before, preemie pups are usually the ones mostly in danger. They could die rather quickly due to temperature change, due to just about anything. Matter of fact, if they're too much of a preemie, when they start sucking on the milk, instead of sucking on the milk, what they do is they aspirate and they end up dying on you. So just stay away from that. Don't touch the female's nipples, okay? Also, you could use that to your advantage. Remember I said that 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes threshold between pups? I'll tell you what, if you see that, you know, 55 minutes have gone by and the female, you know, has not pushed the next pup and she has no signs of contractions, you know, you want to make sure that you know, you put the pups that are already out suckling on her nipples, and also go ahead and massage a couple of nipples. That should create that type of cycle that they have in place, to where when the nipples are stimulated, oxytocin is released. Now, if you have oxytocin on hand, like I said previously, that would be a good time to give it at around the fam. Another important reason why you don't want to overly do the nipple thing, okay, is because, say for example, 2 days before the pups are born, you're here playing with the nipples and she's releasing what you think to be milk. It's really not milk. The first 12 to 24 hours, she's going to put out colostrum. Colostrum is vital for the pups. It's their immune system. For the first 27 days, they don't have an immune system, and they rely on the colostrum. So if you waste away that colostrum, you're going to have these pups without an immune system, and usually anywhere between the 2-week and 3-week mark, they're going to start dying on you, one right after another, and you're not going to know why. And it's simply because they don't have an immune system. So once your female goes into labor, it's not the worst idea, even before or during, to give her a Tums. One of them little Tums that we take as antacids, because they have calcium, okay? Usually when the female goes into labor, she may deplete her calcium deposit, especially on a large litter. You know, 10 or more pups, I want to say would be considered a large litter, but it could even happen with just 8. So what I usually do is, after about the 3rd or 4th pup, I'll go ahead and give my dog a Tums, or even before she starts into labor, I give her a Tums. And I do this on purpose so that she has calcium in her body. Now, calcium helps contractions, okay? If you notice, if you have a female that in the past has had pups and you've had the last 2 or 3 pups die on you because, you know, she just simply, the contractions just simply weren't there, or they were inside of the canal for way too long, it could be due to calcium depletion. Something as simple as a Tums before labor or during labor could probably help you, you know, make sure that she doesn't deplete her calcium deposits, and therefore she doesn't. Fam, you got to make sure that that colostrum is consumed by these pups. Otherwise, it's pretty much a certain death sentence, okay? Because they need the immunity of this colostrum that they only have access to the first 12 to 24 hours the mom produces it, and the first 12 to 24 hours that they're able to consume it, okay? Once that's done, you know, because I've had people write me, you know, when should I start the replacement milk? I have a female that doesn't have the best, you know, motherly instincts. Fam, everybody's situation is a little bit different. I wouldn't start the replacement milk until about a week into it. I want my pups to get as much of the mom's milk as possible. Believe it or not, female dogs have richer milk than goat milk, than cow milk, than any milk that you could think of out there. As far as replacement milk, we'll make a video in the future talking about what we do, what type of formula, how we set it up, if it is necessary. But like I said, what would be ideal is if the pups are a mom and suckling her milk. There's nothing richer, nothing more natural, and nothing more perfect. Well, fam, this has been it for today. I hope the information we've given you is something that could be helpful for you. Make sure you hit the comments if you see me say something that you agree or don't agree with, or something that you might want to just discuss, okay? Also, make sure you hit that like button, you hit the subscribe button, and you hit the bell. This has been Raul from QB&K.